Surprise! It's March 11th, 2021, but regardless of the year, it's 3/11. 3/11 Day. And what better way to celebrate 3/11 Day than with the all-new 3/11 show? And of course, if you're going to have a guest on the 3/11 show, you go to the source. And when I say source, I don't mean anybody that's actually in the band 3/11. I mean somebody that celebrates the band 3/11 even more so than the band 3/11. Maybe you know him from the Bye Guys podcast. Maybe you know him from the band Sock Full of Pennies. Maybe you know him from being in the Notsam studio, comedian Ian Fidance. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for that glowing introduction. And thank you for celebrating with me 3/11 Day, where, you know, for some, it's just a once a year thing. And this will be a once a year bonanza show. But for others, myself, I'm speaking of every day is 3/11 Day when you're a fan of 3/11.
I mean, this is like Christmas for you, except you're like one of those weirdos who listens to Christmas music. You're like Mick Foley, who will listen to Christmas music all year round. But then when it really becomes Christmas, it's super, super extra.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I sometimes, to put me in a good mood, I'll just throw on the Home Alone soundtrack and just let John Williams dictate my mood for the day. In July is jarring for some, but comforting for others.
Well, you know, 3/11, it only comes once a year, but I feel like the band for you, and like I'm gonna be honest with you. As far as the band 3/11 goes, like I was never a huge 3/11 fan. To this day, I'm not sitting there going like, yeah, those are my guys. I was just, you know, aware of them. And of course, you know, I was asking everybody to chill. And I'll ask them to do that on 3/11 more than anybody else. But what I like about 3/11 is the culture that they've created. I feel like there's not that many bands who, especially from that era, right? 3/11 really pops off in 95, 96, and then rides the last half of the 90s into the 2000s before they fade away from the mainstream. But they maintained after they faded away from the mainstream, and I think built an even more loyal audience after, you know, they put out their greatest hits in like 2003. And I feel like that was only the beginning for the hardcores.
Totally. And I think the key to their longevity is every single year, you cannot help but think 3/11 on that.
Yeah.
I mean, they nailed it. The only other two bands I can think of that have kind of a band name that pops up randomly and will be that they'll associate that word with the band is corn when you eat it.
Yeah.
Orgy when you have it, you know. And 3/11 is great because every year you make the 3/11 joke, right? Obviously, yes. But there's always hope for next year that you will eventually come original. And I think that kind of something to look forward to in the new year. And I remember last year, actually, this 3/11 is special because not only is it 3/11 Day, but it is also the 1-year anniversary of the coronavirus.
Wow. Do you think 3/11 had anything to do with that? Do you think that they were like, okay, this is going to be a big deal in America because nobody sees it coming, and if we could really lock this in on 3/11, like maybe somebody from the band was asking what's his name from the Rudy Gobert to like lick microphones and stuff like that, and trying to spread it to Tom Hanks in Australia, and like let's kick this thing off right.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I remember from the early stages of Corona was a meme going around of 3/11 that had their song "Don't Stay Home Tonight." It said, "Please stay home." So I mean, it was great. It was nothing like early Corona to make us think it was cute and fun. To then, you know, like I saw a gay porn meme of a guy, and it was just him laying down, and it said, CDC be like, and the guy said, please stay inside me, or please stay inside. I was like, and then it was just a year of back and forth hell.
Yeah, it really, really was. But at least we had our music. I mean, I do think that 311, for a band that's as sort of positive and pleasant as 311 is, were you one of the people, like, did you get nervous at all when the rumors started going around that 311 was like a white supremacist band because, they said the 11th letter of the alphabet is
Okay.
K, and so they said 311 is really
Yeah.
KKK. There's nothing in the music that would lead you to believe anywhere near that, but they were just like, no, this is
No,
what it is.
and they had a Hispanic person in the band, and they were played music from different genres that included, they're a very diverse in sound band, and their message has always been like welcoming and kind. I remember hearing that. I was in like sixth or seventh grade. I heard that, and I was like, "That's not true." And then I heard that 311 is like the call on the police scanner for like a weed related crime, and that kind of made more sense because I know they were huge weed heads. I had a 311 VHS tape of them on tour, and it made me want to smoke weed so I could be like 311.
And did you, as a young, impressionable child, smoke weed because of 311?
No, I tried to, but the guys that smoked weed were weirded out by how much I wanted to smoke weed. Weed's a very chill drug, It's a very, as S.A. Martinez would say, chill drug. And there's nothing less chill than a seventh grader going to people going, "You got blunts? You want to smoke weed? You have weed? I heard about weed. Can we smoke weed?" And they're like, "Dude, you gotta."
So they just didn't want your energy around them. They were like, this isn't our vibe at all. This isn't why we do this.
No, and I hung out with all the bad kids, and even they were like, "You got to relax." So, like 311. Okay, instead I'll just draw weed leaves on my pencil case. That'll be what I do instead.
Yeah, that'll be just as good. Oh, do you smoke weed? No, but I mean, I hear other people do, and they seem to be having a great time with it. So
I draw it on my vision board, which is one day, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I looked up. What the 311 call is because you're right. That's what Peanut. He had to make it clear because I guess they were like, we can't have people running around thinking our band is about the KKK. So 311 is actually where are they from? Nebraska? Omaha, right? So in Omaha, 311 is the call for indecent exposure.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Even better. Even better. I'm glad I didn't know that as a child because I would always be whipping it out to be like 311. So I'm glad there was some confusion there. But give it up to Peanut for beating that thing and for making that known,
Yeah, it's like we're not into racism. We're into sort of public nudity, indecent exposure. It's penis jokes, people. We make penis jokes here.
Yeah. We're not about the KKK. We're all about play with that thing.
So when did, for you, I mean, like you said, 311's gotten you through Corona. I'm sure 311's gotten you through a lot of tough times. But when did you, Ian, become like obsessed with this band? When did you realize that this is my thing?
I mean, I think it was the music video for Down. I mean, that like wow, 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 chill. Lie on my side as my ego become. It's just such a fun, funky vibe, and it was a great song. It played over and over, and that coincided with when Airwalks were popular.
Oh yeah, people don't know either. They think like Airwalks are this. Now they're like a Payless brand or something like that. But no, Airwalks, I remember that was probably the first brand. Like when you were just for one era, like it was probably a 2-year run. But there was two types of kids if you wanted to be cool.
Yep.
Air Jordans and Airwalks. That was it.
I mean, talk about social currency. The thing about Airwalks was when you had the Airwalks, you had to airwalk the walk. The whole thing was like, are you a poser? He doesn't really skateboard. So the Airwalks went tandem with picking up skateboarding.
Oh yeah. And I was a poser at the time. I was a major poser. You could always tell the posers because their Airwalks were not, because if you were not a poser, your Airwalks would be all scuffed up because you were ollieing with them. But if you couldn't ollie, then your Airwalks were not scuffed up at all. And I always had the cleanest Airwalks imaginable.
I remember, the first time I ever worked a construction job, Me and my friends got the job because our friend's dad owned the company, and we were unskilled laborers working state rate for a state job. So our pay was like 27.50 an hour as these college kids who, they were kind of like, I don't know what to do. I loved it. I had always wanted to like work with tools and everything. And the very first day, we all got rides together and we're outside the construction site. My buddy's like, these guys are going to know that we've never done construction before. Quick, let's scuff up our boots. So he like took out a box cutter and started like scraping on our boots. And I'm like, what is happening? We're faking already. Let's just fucking make it natural, baby. You know?
No, I'm right there with you because I mean I remember I got a skateboard because it really was like there was this because you're in middle school at the time, and so you don't really understand subgenres yet. It's just, are you a hip hop guy or are you a metalhead? And it's like, if you like 311, you're a metalhead, right? If you wear Airwalks, you're a metalhead. But you gotta do it right. So I had my mom get me a skateboard and everything, and I was like, no, I'm gonna learn. And I mean, I would sit there in the driveway for hours trying to figure out how to ollie. And I mean, It was the most pathetic thing you've ever seen in your life. And I did at some point. I took the board and I took the front side, the tape side, and started trying to scuff my shoes. And then I took it a step further, and like on the rock area, I took the bottom of the board and rubbed it against the rock so it looked like I was grinding. And I couldn't even get it up to grind.
Yep, the grind marks. I mean, that is the equivalent of putting a box cutter into a construction boot.
Yes.
It is taking the funk, stolen valor. You're not a construction worker. You're not a skateboarder. But goddamn, if as a kid, that is not the pinnacle of cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I was always like, I get exposed so easily because I wouldn't know the intricacies. Like I would have these like obviously fake grind marks on my skateboard, but then I wouldn't know why people had these wax things. Like I wouldn't know what wax was for. And people would be like, how would you grind with no wax? You've never heard of wax, but you have those grind marks. And I'm like, chill.
Yeah. Anyway, have you guys ever swap spit while you dream of juice? I'm cool. I remember the first skateboard I got was in Long Beach Island, New Jersey. It was a blind. Went to the skate shop and just was trying to. That was like before I even tried to skate on it. It was like I got to skip skating. I got to go straight to ollie.
You got to ollie. You have to.
And it's funny because as an adult, I can now ollie, I can do like old school finger tricks and stuff. But as a kid, I could not get it down. It was always, I would always pop. Nothing makes you feel more impotent than trying to ollie and getting nowhere with it.
It's true. It's true because other people make it look so easy. And then you're like, how do you do it? What's the trick? And it's like when you can't whistle. It's like when they go, you just whistle. You shut your lips and you blow and you whistle. That's how you whistle. They go like, what do you mean? How do you ollie? You just slide your foot up as you're jumping and push the other side down. And I mean, probably a full year before I gave up and finally said, this just isn't for me. But I wonder if as an adult, I could revisit and I could ollie now.
Well, I mean, I hung out with a kid who told me that there was a girl in his neighborhood who would give you a blowjob if you could ollie over a skateboard. And I've never had more of a diligent homework assignment in my entire life. Just neglecting every aspect of life except for trying to ollie in my backyard on a slab of concrete. And it would not work. I didn't even know what a blowjob was. I just some sort of interaction with a girl that makes you cool. And there was a kid on my baseball team that would skateboard at practice, and he had like a cigarette burn in his shirt. His name was Justin Gale, and I'll never forget him. He would smoke behind the dugout and skateboard. And I was like, I think this guy is God. I think this is the coolest dude. He was like Nelson from The Simpsons, like, kind of cool. You go to his house and it's just like the most broken thing in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, we had. I think probably Carlos was the kid and he like looks a little older than everybody else does in whatever it was, 8th grade or whatever. And like he would be always the one that would come up with the ideas. Like we'd be sitting, in our area before school started, and he'd go, "Hey, do you guys want a mosh?" And like there's no music, there's no nothing. It's like the nerdiest, dumbest thing. But I mean, what kind of a man are you? What kind of a metalhead? A metalhead says, no, I don't want to mosh. And it would just be like, but it wouldn't be moshing. It would just be because he was bigger than everybody else. It would just
Which
be
is
his excuse to push everybody onto the floor.
totally. I mean, I would do it, but first I'd be like, yeah, let me just take off my wallet chain that I have for some like let me just pull up my Jenkos, just let me adjust something that is me just desperately searching for an identity
Dude,
to fit in.
I mean, I think I told you before. I had my dad told me that I couldn't wear my chain wallet, which I didn't even know was a thing that motorcycle guys wore so they didn't lose their wallets. I just thought it was a chain on a wallet. I had no idea what the
Yeah.
function was. But I mean, at the time, the bigger the chain, the cooler you were. So
Yes.
I literally went to Home Depot and got a link of actual chain, of like full size chain, and
Like junk. Oh,
and put a paper clip on the end of it so I could attach it to my belt loop. And then I would walk around the house, and my dad would go, "You can't wear that anymore because you're making marks on all the furniture. You're just clanging a giant chain on wooden furniture. And you look like an idiot."
oh my God. I love it. I initially started with a long wallet chain and I was obsessed with Kurt Cobain. I saw he had a shorter one.
Mhm.
I was like, I need to obviously course correct and change this and wear it on, the other side of to put it in the butt pocket that he's got it in.
Yeah.
And I must be like Kurt. I remember I punched a friend in the belly because he told me Kurt Cobain, he was happy Kurt Cobain died. And I was like, this is slander. How dare you,
Yeah, but you'd get that identity. So like, did you fall in love with 311?
Mhm.
Is it something that you carried with you throughout the course, or is it something that you kind of grew out of and then revisited? Because I feel like we have a tendency to do that, right? I feel like when you get to an age where you're kind of really comfortable with yourself, you start going back to that stuff that you liked originally because that's the most genuine stuff, I think. When you really start figuring out who you are outside of your
Mhm.
parents and your siblings and you just start to become an independent person, that first stuff that you like, I don't know, it always hits differently, but it doesn't. There's always that decade or so where you abandon it.
Right. Well, I think the reason why 311 with me personally has longevity is because I mean, they just kept coming out with hit after hit after hit. And like the alternative station was Y100 in Philadelphia. And that's like what you would listen to. And they would always play down. And then next it was, Amber. And then it was Come Original. And then it was, Don't Stay Home Tonight. And it was like all these songs that were just playing all the time. And I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And then I, obviously got into, punk rock and hardcore and ska. But in high school, I used to make mix CDs for my friends that they would call Ian's Influence. And I would always put a 311 song on there, even in high school, like a different 311 song that I mean, like when I go home to my mom's and I drive her car, I find my old mix CDs and pop it in. And I'm like, oh my God, this is wild. I would like start out the CD with 311. Like I was like, this needs to come off with a bang. Who can I rely on? 311.
Every time. Every single time. And yeah, that's what happens, right? You go back and you find those mixtapes and you're never like, oh, what was I thinking? You're like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
Oh, totally. No shame in the game. Just like, wow, I've always been cool. It's funny because like I would play those. I'd put 311 on those mixtapes along with a very wide variety of music. But like one of the consistent bands I would put on there was 311. I never really thought about that till now, but I never like, they were never like my number one favorite band, but they were always there playing in the background, and like whenever people were like, this band sucks, this blah, blah, I would always take up for them and be like, you're not listening to the right songs. You haven't heard the deep cut.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, at the time, anybody that's like saying that they were listening to All Mixed Up and not enjoying themselves
Right.
are kind of lying. You know what I mean? Like at the time when it came out, it was tough to not at least tap your foot.
Yeah, but I think like they were lying out of self-preservation because at a certain point 311 got corny. Like that whole like rapping in rock got corny and they never stopped. And then they would like go from like this like alternative music to reggae, and it's like, oh, that's weird, and then I think they kind of got like a corny reputation, but I've always just like liked what I liked when I like it, and never, I mean, I learned after my Airwalk phase to never, it doesn't feel good to be a poser, and you just got to like what you like. And with music, I think I always just gravitated towards, I'm going to just listen to what I listen to for me. And I never, I got pushback because people would be like, 311 sucks, blah, blah, blah. But like, I never felt that personally. But that I can definitely understand and see why people would be like, oh, this band sucks now. They're fucking cornballs.
Well, yeah, I think what hit 311, because, when you look at 311, this is not a band that was like concocted by a record company. They had an independent career before they hit. Like they hit in 95, 96, but they started in like 93, and they had sort of that like low level independent fan base, which was even more loyal, I think, back then, because you didn't have the internet that was kind of bringing even a slight mainstream feel on board. It was all word of mouth and people exchanging tapes and touring and stuff like that.
Totally.
So when they popped up and they started hitting, it was like, oh, this is cool. And it was very different when it came out. There wasn't a lot of that sort of like reggae ska influence. Like it was around the same time as Sublime and stuff like that, but there wasn't a ton of it. And I think the problem was that, that they had a run for 5 years, and then rap rock started, you know what I mean? And Korn started to go from being cool to not being cool, and Limp Bizkit, went real quick, and Kid Rock went real quick, and that whole, I mean, every other week there was a new rap rock band showing up straight out of Hot Topic, and 311 got grouped in with them as if they had just popped up as the scene got hot.
Well, I just looked it up, and they actually started in 1988.
Wow.
And the guitarist Tim Mahoney didn't join until 1990.
Wow.
And then S.A. Martinez joined in 92, and they didn't hit until 95. So that's like, 7 years of just grinding it out, no one liking you, doing it for the love of the music, love of the game, and then eventually like hitting. So I it's funny to think of them as, this band that only had like a certain window, when that almost tells me that they weren't, and the fact that they're still doing it today, it was never about success for them. It was never about any sort of like fame. It was just about like getting together with your friends and playing music. And then again, like I think this is analogous to comedy as well. You just do something long enough, and eventually it pops if you stay with it and keep doing things for you. Eventually you will find your fan base.
Yeah, and they didn't. I think that having that mentality going in was like getting huge was icing on the cake, because it's not like they stopped, right? Like they put out that greatest hits album in 2004, after it was like greatest hits 93 to 2003, I think it was called. And that was kind of the end of that chapter. But they put out music, like they kept putting out music right after that. Like in 2005, they were on tour with Papa Roach,
Wow.
So it's like they weren't even sort of like, no, we're 311, we don't want to be. They were like, yeah, Papa Roach, if you're touring, we'll jump on. They started doing the 311 cruises, the Caribbean cruises in 2011.
Yes, the 311 cruise. I mean, they have a cruise, they have a day. What don't they have,
Yeah.
I think the 311 cruise is kind of like Skankfest, like you just go, you get to hang out with the people you like, you get to see them perform, you get to have a good time. It's like a Planet Fitness, it's a no judgment zone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, I can only imagine what it's like being on a cruise ship with 311 in Hawaiian shirts and sandals, just nonstop 311. That might be heaven for some, hell for others, but God damn it if I don't want to experience it at least once.
Yeah. Do you feel like at this point in your life, you'd like to just take a week and submit yourself to 311? Just like, you know what? A day is not enough. I'm going to give a week to this band that means so much to me. You can have it. I'm going to surround myself with 311 on a boat for the next 7 days.
Groundhog Day for a week. It's 311 day every day for weeks. And I think I would do it if I had the company of someone I get along with that we could like joke around and have a good time. Because I think if I went alone, that would be hell because I'm sober and everyone would be getting fucked up and like, being stuck on a cruise ship sober without like a buddy would be hell. But I think if I had like a friend or two there and we could have a good time, I think it'd be worth it. As long as I could like come and go from the 311 as much as I want. But if it was like 311 in my ear, 311 in my eyeballs the whole time, I think I'd, definitely jump off ship without a life jacket.
If they were just like pumping 311 into the rooms. Like as
Yeah.
you go to sleep, there's just like, we're going to turn it down because it's nighttime, but we figure 311 24 hours a day. Yes. And you're like, what's going on? This is a torture boat.
Yeah. It's some psyops. I start like giving out secrets I didn't even know I had.
Yeah. Although like it would, like you would have to, if you were going to do it, you'd have to go all the way. Like if I were going to do that, and again, I'm not even a 311 fan like that, but I'm a fan of the era. I'm a fan of the culture. And I could see having a good time, but I'd go like, I'm going and buying a chain wallet. I'm buying
Yep.
a pair of Airwalks and
Yes.
like, and I'm going to paint my nails black. And this is going to be middle school Sam thinking that guy's awesome. He gets to go on the 311 cruise and wear his Airwalks.
Yes. I mean, I would have to find a pair of Airwalks somewhere. I would have to see if I could bring a skateboard on board. And, I think I would really dig it if they had other acts too. But if it's just like 311 all the time, I think that'd be a bit much and probably punishable by, breaking some sort of law, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot too. Was there a time that you weren't listening to 311? Like, did you go through that period where you were like kind of you're not a girl, not yet a woman?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I appreciate the reference, especially because of the shirt you're wearing. It's just perfect. The Britney shirt.
Free
It's amazing.
Britney. Free Britney.
Free Britney. And like her song, I've been known to be toxic. And I yeah, of course. I mean, it's not like I'm listening to them every single day, but they do fall into that genre of music for me that's always like they're a good mood, good time bands. Like I
Yeah.
always put them and always be like, all right, cool. Like I feel good.
And they're like one of the few bands that I've heard. I was reading an interview with the guy from Eve 6 was doing.
Oh boy.
And I mean, Eve 6 has they went from being hey, remember that band to, oh, you mean Twitter celebrity, the guy from Eve 6?
Yeah,
And
he's kind of like lost me because he's no longer being fun. He's like on Twitter discussing like political, like critical race theory and hyper normalization. And I'm like, whoa, buddy, you got to like cool it. Okay. I came here for the fun stories about Our Lady Peace, not, getting your political hot takes.
yeah, I thought that like the game we were playing was the guy from Eve 6 insults bands that are better than Eve 6. Like that's what I was on board for.
Yeah, totally. I didn't know that he was, the Noam Chomsky of the Twitter world.
Well,
The Noam Chomsky of the number one hits for 1 year.
he said that he has respect for 311 because every time he would like go on Twitter and insult 311 or make jokes about 311, Peanut would like it. He would hit like on it.
Nice. I imagine you have to have thick skin if you're in 311 because they can easily be looked at as a joke. They can be looked at as a farce, but to have the self-awareness enough to go, I get it. I think that's a testament to a fun type vibe of a person.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the fact that they went on tour with Papa Roach when Papa Roach is literally, I mean, it's the cardboard cutout of the band that is responsible for probably the downfall of 311. Like the reason people think that 311 is cheesy is because Papa Roach and no disrespect to Papa Roach, you would never hear me disrespecting Papa Roach, but Papa Roach and Crazy Town and then all the pop punk stuff, Simple Plan and Good Charlotte mixed in with Limp Bizkit, like all that just wave of horrific content made it so that 311 got swept up in that. But, the fact that I think it's cool that they just want to play music So they're not
Yeah.
sitting there going like, "Oh, if it wasn't for you guys, we'd still be cool." They're like,
Yeah, or like living in the past of like, remember when? It's
yeah,
like, no, remember now, motherfucker.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And I mean, oh my God, Crazy Town. I totally forgot about them. Shifty Shell Shock or whatever his motherfucker. He's addicted to crack. God bless him. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah.
But I mean, whoo. I mean, that's the thing. Three of those bands are like one hit wonders. The 311 was not. The hits kept on coming. Like their compilation, their greatest hits in 2004, that's a fucking banger album.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just take the 5 years that they were big, they had the self-titled album, then Transistor, then Sound System, then From Chaos that all had hits on it. That's 95 to 2001. That's 4 albums that all had hits on them.
Yeah, and also they were in a couple movie soundtracks too, I believe. Which anytime you can associate a band with a movie, that like Blink 182 and Third Eye Blind, I will always associate them with Can't Hardly Wait. And or like when Damn It, like American Pie.
I was gonna say American Pie, the same thing. I mean, it's the same.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 311 might have been on the Can't Hardly Wait soundtrack. Maybe. I mean, it sounds like they should have been, because American Pie and Can't Hardly Wait, like those soundtracks are kind of the genre defining soundtracks of the era.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I also, here's the thing. I love 311. I definitely dig them, but I don't dig them enough to look at each individual member of the band's side projects.
Yeah. That's a lot, you know. That's a lot. Like I'm the biggest White Stripes fan you'll ever find. I mean, I literally, Jack White's autograph is tattooed on my arm right under Rob Zombie's autograph. Like it's as big as it gets. And it's like when that band ended and the Raconteurs started, I was like, oh, okay. And I liked the single, but I was like, I don't know. Like the Raconteurs doesn't do it for me in the same way. And the Dead Weather doesn't do it for me in the same way. I can get behind the solo stuff because, you know, the solo stuff is pretty close to what was going on in the White Stripes. I don't think Meg was creatively defining the sound of that band. But yeah, I mean, none of it is the White Stripes.
I mean, I will, you know, Rage Against the Machine got their name from a song called Rage Against the Machine from Zach De La Rocha's original hardcore band Inside Out, which I dig. I have listened to Tom Morello's solo stuff, The Night Watchman, and I kind of dig it, you know. But I'm not going to listen to their bassist solo project.
Yeah.
Like, I dig 311, but I'm not going to listen to, you know, S.A. Martinez's DJ album, you know. Like I'm trying to think of a band that I can not only like the band, but get into their solo projects as like an entity of its own. And I'm trying to think, and I don't know if I can think off the head of any of them.
I mean, obviously, White Zombie, you follow Rob Zombie after that because Rob Zombie was White Zombie, but you're not like necessary. But I don't even know if the rest of them had solo projects. I mean, yeah, I think that Wes Borland, when he left Limp Bizkit, tried to get some people to follow him, and people were like, "Nah, bro, we need you back with the Biscuit."
Yeah, no, I don't want to listen to a guitarist with just contact lenses playing. You know, I need some Durst in there, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I guess, you know, I would follow all of Nine Inch Nails' solo projects because it's just Trent Reznor.
Yeah. I mean, those poor sad sacks in the band, you know.
Yeah. I remember when you get like a Hit Parader magazine and there'd be a group shot of Nine Inch Nails and it's like, what are these other guys doing in the picture?
Oh yeah, and it's just like in focus on Trent, and the guys are kind of in the background, like, "Hey, I'm here too."
it's literally the Don't Speak or whatever the No Doubt video is. I think it's Don't Speak, right? Yeah.
I'm not gonna listen to Tony Canal's solo bass record.
No,
but I feel like you know, Joe. I'm into Joe Walsh and the Eagles. Like that's a good example of like a solo. Robert Plant, I dig him. on his own, but I'm not really into like Jimmy Page runs. Usually it works with singers. I'm surprised it works with Joe Walsh, but usually it works way easier with singers than, like I really don't know if I can think of any bands off the top of my head that I'm like, wow, their bassist has a great solo project.
Okay. All right. I got it. How about this one? Nirvana. Obviously, you would have followed Kurt wherever he went.
Yes.
Obviously, Dave Grohl is one of the most talented musicians of all time. And I mean, you're interested in what Chris Novoselic is doing in his political career, right? That's pretty much his solo project. So I think Nirvana, it's helpful that there's only 3 of them. I think once you bring Pat Smear into the conversation, now we've gotten all mixed up.
But and I don't know what to do. But I will say, I like Steve Albini's projects, who produced In Utero.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the first time I've been like, oh, a producer of something I like. Let me look into them.
The Beatles is probably the only, and even the Beatles, but with the Beatles, if we're being really honest, the Ringo stuff is loyalty. Like, you're not sitting there going, because John Lennon is very strong. Paul McCartney is, I mean, as strong as it could possibly get. George Harrison is incredibly strong. And Ringo, you're going like, I guess you'll throw him a bone, but I can't imagine anybody sitting there just going like, oh man, Ringo's solo stuff, huh?
Off the top of my head, I can't. What's that's his like one song. What is it? You got to pay your dues if you want to pay your dues.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see Ringo and his all-star band, hoping that one of the other, like hoping at this point that Paul McCartney shows up or something. Because
it don't come easy. That was like
yeah.
I mean, I'm going there for that song, and I'm taking the longest piss break.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. The Beatles are. I mean, I may be a bigger fan of, I don't know who I like better solo wise, George Harrison or John Lennon, but it is interesting that we are discussing the Beatles in a conversation shrouded in 311, which I think really speaks to just how great 311 is.
Right. Because you're sitting there going like, wow, it's the 311 show. What other bands are on 311's level? I guess the Beatles. I guess we could give it to them.
I do think a generation grew with 311 as well. And they can only, 2 words that I can describe our thought process with this is just a beautiful disaster,
I think you're right. Ian Fidance, this has been incredible. I want to wish you a very, very happy 311 on the first ever 311 show. I think it's one of the only annual podcasts. We'll have to do this again next year. I think this was a fabulous idea.
I mean, I think it was a great idea. And, I hope that the guys in 311 hear about this, see this. I mean, if Peanut's liking Eve Six's tweets, why isn't he going to fucking notice me and old Sammy Roberts tweeting? And, if they check it out or not, I'll be here a while waiting, I'll be ready to sing them a love song if they dig this. But what a better way to celebrate 311 Day than to have this celebration of the band on their day. This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, and honestly 311 for giving us this glorious day. Thank you.
Thank you.